No human was supposed to be here. The planet of Karos was ruled by giants, creatures taller than buildings, strong enough to crush metal with one hand. Humans were weak in their eyes. Small. Useless. Most giants believed humans should not even exist. But on this dark red planet, one human was about to change everything. His name was Evan. Evan's exploration ship was broken. Smoke filled the cockpit as warning lights flashed again and again. He had no weapons left. No backup. No signal to call for help. He was alone. Evan forced the ship down into a rocky valley, crashing hard against the ground. The impact knocked the air out of his lungs. For a moment, he thought he was dead. Then he heard it. A deep, painful sound. Not an explosion. Not an animal. A voice. It was slow, heavy, full of pain. Evan stepped out of the ship, his legs shaking. The air was thick and hard to breathe. Every part of his body told him to run. But the sound came again. A cry. Against his fear, Evan followed it. Behind a wall of broken stone, he saw something impossible. A giant. She was lying on the ground, trapped under a massive metal transport ship. Sparks flew from the broken engines. One of her arms was bleeding badly, dark blue blood soaking the ground. She was enormous. Her face alone was bigger than Evan's entire body. And she was a princess. Evan knew it by the golden armor and glowing symbols on her chest. This was not just any giant. This was royalty. Her eyes opened slowly and locked onto him. A human. Her expression changed from pain to shock. A human? She whispered, her voice shaking the ground. Evan froze. Giants killed humans on sight. Everyone knew that. He raised his empty hands. "I'm not here to hurt you," Evan said. His voice sounded small, even to himself. "I heard you. That's all." The princess tried to move, but the ship pressed down harder on her chest. She let out a painful gasp. "I cannot move," she said. "Leave. My people will come." Evan looked at the ship. It was heavy, far heavier than anything a human should even try to move. If giant soldiers arrived, he would be dead. If he stayed, he might die anyway. Evan made a choice. He ran back to his ship and pulled out the last power cable and emergency lifter core. It was damaged and unstable, but it might work once. He climbed onto the wrecked transport and attached the core. Sparks flew everywhere. "This might explode," Evan muttered. The princess watched him, confused. "Why are you doing this?" Evan didn't stop working. "Because you're hurt." The lifter core screamed as it activated. Slowly, very slowly, the massive ship began to rise. Evan pushed his body to the limit, controlling the power manually. Blood ran from his nose. His vision blurred. With one final surge, the ship lifted just enough. "Move!" Evan shouted. The princess pulled herself free and rolled away as the transport crashed back down. The ground shook. Evan collapsed. He barely felt the giant shadow fall over him. Large hands gently picked him up. "You saved me," the princess said softly. "A human saved me." Her glowing eyes studied his broken body. For the first time in her life, she felt something strange. Respect. In the distance, giant warships appeared in the sky. Sirens echoed across the valley. The princess stood tall, holding the unconscious human in her hand. "They will kill you," she whispered. She made a decision that would shock her entire empire. She turned toward the approaching ships and spoke with authority. "This human is under my protection." The warship slowed. For the first time in giant history, a human life mattered. Evan woke up in darkness. At first, he thought he was dead. His body felt light, like he was floating. Then pain hit him all at once. His chest burned. His arms felt weak. He tried to move, but could not. Slowly, his eyes opened. The ceiling above him was not metal. It was stone. Glowing blue symbols moved across it like living light. He was not on a ship. He was somewhere else. Evan turned his head and froze. A giant face was watching him. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. "Do not fear," the deep voice said. "You are safe." It was her, the giant princess. She was kneeling beside him, careful not to touch the bed. Evan noticed the room was built for giants. He was lying on a small platform placed on top of a massive stone table. "You should be dead," she said quietly. Your body is weak. Your bones were damaged. Your heart almost failed. Evan swallowed. Then why am I alive? The princess looked away. Because I said so. Evan did not understand what she meant, until the doors behind her slammed open. Heavy footsteps shook the room. 3 giant warriors entered, their armor dark and sharp. Their eyes locked onto Evan like he was an insect. This human must be executed, one of them said. He entered forbidden land. Another stepped forward. He touched royal blood. Evan felt cold fear run through him. The princess stood up. No, she said. Her voice was calm, but strong enough to silence the room. He saved my life. Without him, I would be dead under that ship. The giants hesitated. A human cannot save a giant, one said angrily. It is impossible. The princess turned, her glowing eyes burning with authority. And yet, I'm standing here. Silence filled the chamber. Finally, the lead warrior bowed his head. The council will decide, he said. Until then, the human lives. They left. Evan released a breath he didn't know he was holding. The princess looked down at him. My name is Elira, she said. I am next in line for the throne. Evan nodded weakly. Evan. For the next few days, Evan recovered slowly. He was treated like a prisoner. Giant guards stood outside his room at all times. Strange machines scanned his body. He was not allowed to leave. But every night, Elira came to see him. She asked questions. Why do humans explore dangerous space? Why do they fight when they're so small? Why did Evan risk his life for her? Evan answered honestly. Humans don't have strength, he said. So we use courage. Elira listened closely. She had been taught that humans were selfish and weak. But Evan did not look weak to her. He looked brave. One night, Evan noticed her hands were shaking. What's wrong? He asked. Elira hesitated. There is something you must know, she said. I am promised to someone. Evan felt his chest tighten. Someone. A warlord, she said. One of the strongest giants in the empire. The marriage will unite armies. Evan understood. It was political, not love. He hates humans, Elira continued. If he decides you are a threat, I will not be able to stop him. As if the universe heard her words, alarms suddenly echoed through the palace. Red lights filled the halls. A giant guard rushed in. Princess, the warlord has arrived early. He demands to see the human. Evan's heart pounded. Elira looked at him, fear clear in her eyes. He cannot see you like this, she whispered. If he decides you are dangerous, you will die. She made a choice. A dangerous one. I will protect you, she said, no matter the cost. Evan looked at her, confused. Why? Elira met his eyes. Because when everyone else would have left me to die, you stayed. Heavy footsteps echoed closer. The warlord was coming. And Evan had no idea that this moment would lead to a deal that would change his life forever. The warlord entered the palace like a storm. Each step shook the ground. His armor was dark black, covered in scars from 100 battles. His eyes burned with cold power. His name was Karnox. He did not bow. He did not smile. He looked straight at Princess Elira. So, he said, his deep voice echoing, this is the place where a human hides. Elira stood tall. This is my palace. Karnox laughed. Not for long. Guards dragged Evan into the great hall. His hands were tied. He felt small under the giant ceiling. Thousands of giant nobles watched from above. Karnox stepped closer and stared at Evan. This is the creature that touched you? Karnox asked. Evan met his eyes. Fear filled his body, but he did not look away. Yes, Elira said. He saved my life. Karnox smiled slowly. Humans save nothing. They survive by luck. He turned to the council. This human is a danger. He has already changed the princess. He must die. The crowd murmured. Elira stepped forward. I will not allow it. Silence. Karnox looked surprised, then angry. You protect a human over your future husband? He asked. Elira clenched her fists. I protect someone who showed honor. Karnox raised his hand. Then let us follow ancient law. The hall went silent. Ancient law was dangerous. Old. Powerful. There is an old contract, Karnox continued. A trial between species. Elira's eyes widened. No, that law was forbidden. Karnox smiled. Forbidden, but still valid. He looked down at Evan. If the human agrees, Karnak said, he will live. Evan swallowed. And if I refuse? Karnak leaned closer. Then I kill you. Slowly, Evan looked at Alira. She shook her head slightly. Do not, she whispered. But Evan spoke. What is the contract? Karnak raised his voice so all could hear. The human will serve the giant empire, he said. He will fight our enemies. He will obey our commands. And in return, Karnak added, his planet will be spared. Evan froze. My planet? Yes, Karnak said calmly. Earth. The room felt cold. If you refuse, Karnak continued, Earth will burn. Alira turned pale. You cannot threaten an entire world. I already have, Karnak replied. Evan's mind raced. He was one human. Earth had billions. He had no choice. I agree, Evan said. Alira shouted. No. The ancient symbols on the floor lit up. The contract activated. Blue light wrapped around Evan's body. Pain exploded through his chest. Strange marks burned into his skin. The contract was sealed. Karnak smiled in victory. The human belongs to us now. Days passed. Evan was taken to a training ground far from the palace. Giant commanders watched him like a weapon. They gave him impossible tasks. Fight machines taller than mountains. Solve war strategies giants failed to understand. Survive battle simulations no human should live through. And yet, Evan adapted. He used human intelligence, human creativity. He won. Giants began to whisper, this human is dangerous. He thinks differently. Alira watched from afar, guilt in her eyes. One night, she visited Evan. I trapped you, she said softly. Evan shook his head. You tried to save me. But I led you into chains, she replied. Evan looked up at her. I'll find a way out. I promise. She touched the glowing mark on his chest. This contract cannot be broken, she said. Only one thing can end it. Evan asked what? Alira visperet va. Far away. Karnak smiled as he watched reports of Evan's victories. The human was becoming too powerful, and Karnak was already planning the final betrayal. The war began without warning. Enemy ships appeared at the edge of giant space like dark shadows. Entire stars went silent. Giant commanders panicked. They turned to one weapon, the human. Evan stood inside a massive battle chamber, surrounded by screens showing destruction. Giant officers watched him closely. You will lead the counterattack, one commander said. That is the contract. Evan nodded. His face was calm, but his heart burned. He knew this war was not just about giants. It was about Earth, about survival. The enemy race was brutal, faster, stronger. Even giants struggled against them. But Evan saw something they did not. Patterns, weak points, fear. He changed everything. Instead of direct attacks, Evan ordered traps, false retreats, split formations. Giants hesitated, but obeyed. The result was shocking. Enemy fleets fell one by one. Giant soldiers began chanting his name. A human leads us. A human saves us. That scared Karnak. From his dark tower, Karnak watched the reports in silence. Evan was winning too much, gaining respect. That was dangerous. The human is no longer useful, Karnak said. Prepare Phase 2. Phase 2 was betrayal. During the final battle, Evan led the giants into what should have been a victory. Then the shields failed. Enemy weapons ripped through giant ships. Thousands died in seconds. Evan shouted orders, trying to save them, but it was too late. He realized the truth. This was planned, Evan whispered. Karnak's voice came through the channel. You were never meant to survive, Karnak said. Your purpose was to weaken our enemies and then disappear. Rage filled Evan's chest. You used me, Evan said. I own you, Karnak replied. The contract says so. Alira heard everything. She ran through the palace, fear and anger burning in her heart. She confronted Karnak in the command hall. You will stop this, she demanded. Karnak laughed. You chose a human over an empire. I choose what is right, Alira said. Karnak raised his hand. Guards moved forward. She will be detained, Karnak ordered. At the battlefield, Evan made a decision. If the contract controlled him, then he would break it from the inside. He did something no giant expected. He disobeyed. Evan took manual control of the core systems. He rerouted power through his own neural link. The contract symbols on his chest burned bright white. Pain nearly killed him, but humans were built to endure. Evan turned the trap around. He lured the enemy fleet into a collapsing star zone. Gravity crushed them. The giants survived. The war was won. But Evan collapsed. Back at the palace, the truth came out. Evidence of Karnox's betrayal spread across the empire. Giant leaders turned against him. Aelira stood before the council. "The humans saved us," she said. "Karnox almost destroyed us." Karnox was arrested, roaring in fury. Days later, Evan woke in the palace again. Aelira stood beside him. "You broke the contract," she said softly. "No, Ivan Duplaiv. I outgrew it." The Empire changed that day. Giants no longer saw humans as weak. They saw them as dangerous allies. But Evan knew one thing. The war was not truly over. The contract was damaged, not destroyed. And its final cost was still coming. The Empire was quiet after the war. Giant cities were damaged. Ships burned in space. Statues of old heroes were broken. But one name was spoken everywhere. The human. Evan stood on a high balcony of the giant capital, looking at the stars. He felt tired in a way no rest could fix. The contract mark on his chest still glowed faintly. It was not gone. Aelira joined him, her long shadow falling over the stone floor. "The council wants to speak with you," she said. Evan nodded. "I know." They entered the great hall together. Thousands of giants watched in silence. The High Council leader stepped forward. "Human Evan," he said, "you saved our empire. You defeated our enemies. You exposed betrayal." The hall echoed with heavy approval sounds. The leader continued, "We offer you honor, power, a place among giants." Aelira looked at Evan, hope and fear in her eyes. "You will be freed from the contract," the leader said, "but only if you accept one thing." Evan raised his head. "What thing?" The leader spoke slowly. "You will remain here, as protector of the empire." Evan understood. Freedom, with chains. He looked at Aelira. She stepped forward. "I will stand with you," she said, "as ruler." Together. The hall gasped. Evan's heart pounded. This was everything he could never dream of. Power, respect, love. But far away, another world waited. Earth. Evan turned back to the council. "I have one condition," he said. The leader nodded. "Speak." "Humans will no longer be hunted," Evan said. "No human worlds will be threatened. And Earth will be protected." The hall fell silent. Giants had never made such a promise before. The council leader closed his eyes, then nodded. "It will be done." The contract mark on Evan's chest faded and vanished. He was free. Cheers shook the palace. Later that night, Evan and Aelira stood alone. "You could stay," Aelira said quietly. "Rule with me." Evan smiled sadly. "And become what giants were to humans." She looked down. "I want something better," Evan said. "For both worlds." Aelira reached out and gently touched his hand. "I fell in love with a human," she said. "Not a ruler." Evan met her eyes. "Then help me change things." Months passed. A new alliance was formed. Humans were welcomed as explorers, scientists, strategists. Giants learned something new. Strength was not size. It was choice. Evan returned to Earth as an ambassador. Human ships now traveled safely through giant space. Statues were built, not of giant warriors, but of a small human standing tall. Aelira watched the stars from her throne. She smiled. A single human had changed two worlds, not with strength, but with courage. The end.